here. Thank you. This is great. This is why I'm drinking Natty Light right now. Okay. No, I'm kidding. Welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing? Good? Yeah? Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. This is my second time back doing a panel. My name is John Narum. I am a professional yo-yo player. With show of hands, who's played with a yo-yo before? Okay. Yeah, if you aren't 6 right now, you've probably been 6, so you've played with a yo-yo before. I'm a yo-yo player, though, so if you play with a yo-yo before, you're probably familiar with certain tricks that are associated with yo-yoing, such as, feel free to just name it if you know the name of the trick. Walking the dog, there you go. How about this one? There you go. So those are 2 yo-yo tricks, very, very well known amongst beginner and non-yo-yo players, but I've been doing this for 21 years, ever since I was 4, and I started out by going to a yo-yo club where kids tie each other tricks. So I started with walk the dog and around the world, and eventually evolved to more intermediate and advanced tricks, such as this next one. This one's called Eli hops. And then this one right here, this one's called Boingy Boing. It's a weird name for a yo-yo trick, but I like it a lot. Thank you. Okay, so today's thing, I made it very specific around the theme of this year's CoreCon. It kind of talks about the history of yo-yoing. I'll tie in a little bit of my own story with it, and then talk about, it's called High-Tech Yo-Yos, with low experience needed to operate. So first things first, I'll introduce myself again. I'm John. I'm actually a world yo-yo champion. Won the world yo-yo champion in 2005. Thank you. Thank you. I wish my ex-girlfriend was that proud. She's a good person, though. I am a sponsored yo-yo player. I have a very high arsenal. I have 600 yo-yos in my repertoire. It's a lot of anything, in my opinion, but I have 600. If you're wondering how do you acquire all these yo-yos, I was a yo-yo competitor, and when you win yo-yo competitions, you don't win like a lot of money or trophies. They're sponsored by YoYo Companies, so you're winning more yo-yos, which is, it's a good payoff, I think, honestly. My strengths are, I like looking athletic on stage without being athletic. I yo-yo, obviously, and I do this thing called off-string yo-yo, which I'm going to show you guys later on. And my weaknesses are pho, or really any type of Mexican food. So those are my weaknesses. We're going to start out with some basic questions. Like, why are we here? Why are we talking about yo-yos? Because yo-yos, believe it or not, even though it's considered a toy, a lot of people see it as really its exact face value of just a toy. It's really immersed itself in different types of subcultures, such as anything from fashion to video games, and other types of really, really cool subcultures have been really, really widely influenced by yo-yo and vice versa. Also, who am I? I'm going to tell you guys. I'm a yo-yo player. What is a yo-yo? We're going to go also, what is not a yo-yo? So let's start out with the first thing. What is a yo-yo? We're going to do some myth busting. Now, a lot of people, I'm going to talk about the history of yo-yo. A lot of people think that the yo-yo originated as a weapon. That is not true. I don't know where it is. It went so far, like, you know that Mountain Dew commercial? They're like, where the guy's in the gas station, he hits him with the yo-yo and he robs the gas station. That's not true. In fact, the yo-yo, what it was is that they were just trying to hunt with a boulder. They would drop them down, but they put the whole string on there to make it a yo-yo. But the yo-yo, what it really was, it was just a Chinese delicacy that they used. They would basically take like pottery skills and make yo-yo shapes and put a string around it and then have them in their home as a sign of wealth, basically, from 500 BC. So that's how old the yo-yo actually is. So it's the second oldest toy behind the doll. I'm going to go over what's not a yo-yo. Here's some pictures. Here's the yo-yo ball. Even though it says the word yo-yo, it's not a yo-yo, and I'll explain why later. Astro Jacks, they're like the 3 balls. That's not a yo-yo either. The nice, lovely lady in the upper hand corner, she's doing the Diablo, which has like 2 sticks going on, fixed axle, piece of plastic spinning. That's actually not a yo-yo either. And for this case, I just put Diablo down there because that is also not a yo-yo. Level 1, we're going to go over the history and development of yo-yos. Let's start with the fixed axle. Now, the yo-yo came over to the United States in 1960 from a man named Pedro Flores. He teamed up with a couple guys from Duncan Yo-Yos. Some of you may have played with a Duncan Butterfly, Duncan Imperial Yo-Yo. This is where it all started. And it started with the fixed axle yo-yo, which basically the best way to put that in easier terms is it's one piece. It was one piece of wood with a string on it, and then they would sand it down and could spin a little bit. But if you got time, I don't know why that's in there, all this stuff here. I took an old trivia PowerPoint and tried to make it so this was a trivia theme around beer. What it should say is that the downside of having a fixed axle yo-yo is that eventually people, once they started playing more of yo-yos, they wanted to do more tricks, but they couldn't reach that next level of trickery because they couldn't get the yo-yo to spin very long. So next thing, introduce this guy, early 2000s, 1998. This guy's name is Dale Bell. He owned this company called Yo-Yo Jam, and the way that this company started is he was actually making the fans that are inside of computers for Microsoft, etc. And then he went to an event, a conference, and he saw one of his coworkers, his kids, playing with a yo-yo, a fixed axle yo-yo. He said, "Let me see that." And then he tried using it, and it only spanned for about 10, 15, 20 seconds. He's like, "I could make a better one of these." So that's exactly how he got into yo-yo. Eventually, what he ended up doing is making ball bearing yo-yos that would spin for basically infinite amount of times in comparison. So what the ball bearing is a small piece of metal in the middle of the yo-yo with the axle, and it can make the yo-yo spin as long as, well, now 33 minutes. That's the longest that a yo-yo can spin. Yeah, it's really cool, but it's also like watching paint dry. So it's a little weird, but I really think that this guy I actually was sponsored by this guy earlier in the day by Yo-Yo Jam, and what he really started doing was introducing the yo-yo to different parts of the world, because even though that this company was originally based in America, he wanted to get the yo-yo to reach all corners of the world, so he started sponsoring people from Japan, all over in Russia, Europe, all over the world where you could get the Yo-Yo Jam name in there. He was able to do it and spread the yo-yo and spread the new engineering behind yo-yoing. And eventually we went to having just 2 big dogs in the yo-yo game to having upwards of really 30 different yo-yo companies that were doing their own thing. So you have Yo-Yo Factory. These are actually companies, some of them you can find in toy stores as well as like Walmart and Target. So you got Yo-Yo Factory, C3 Yo-Yo Design. This team, actually, they designed the yo-yo that is spinning the longest. They're actually making a yo-yo, I think, that they're trying to spin for an hour long. So, yeah, that'd be really cool. But again, it's like watching paint dry. And then Yomega, and then you have Magic Yo-Yo, which is a huge Chinese yo-yo company, and then Monkey Finger Design, which I'm sponsored by. And the difference between all these yo-yo companies, and you're probably wondering why are there so many? Why does it seem like ever since this guy, Dale Bell, created, this hybrid design, created with the ball bearing, why did all these people introduce to the game? It's because they were all trying to find unique ways to fit the different players' styles. So when the yo-yo started spinning longer, as you could guess, there was more tricks that you could do. And the more tricks that you could do, the more fun, and there was more uniqueness, and it actually became more of an art. So all these companies are fit around specific art styles to the yo-yo game. Now, around 2007, when the U.S. economy kind of went in the toilet, the yo-yo industry was, as you can imagine, one of the first industries to kind of go down the toilet because it's toys. You wouldn't even believe it. I have a hard time, convincing a parent to buy a $15 yo-yo when I know they just spent $300 on hockey equipment, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, that kid could get injured tomorrow, but with a yo-yo, this will last for, as long as you virtually want it to. So one of the things that a couple of companies decided that they would do to really kind of help dive into a different place for the yo-yo market is just create a yo-yo that you technically don't even have to throw. You could use something else, a different mechanism, and introduce this right here. This is called the hub stack, and I got a couple of yo-yos here that demonstrate that. So the hub stack is it's these small pieces of plastic. Basically what they did is they took the ball bearing from the inside of the yo-yo, found a way to put it on the outside of the yo-yo, put something on top of it that would make it spin, so that eventually you could exactly, in fact, just hold both ends of the yo-yo, pull it apart like this, and still a yo-yo technically. And a lot of kids thought this was really cool and actually helped relaunch the yo-yo market as a whole. And now today, in comparison, 2008, I would say we maybe had like 25 countries participating actively in yo-yoing. Today it's around 58, which is pretty awesome. So because of really, really unique stuff like this. Another thing that yo-yo is doing right now is they're branching off into different subcultures of the world to appeal to different people. One of the biggest things right now is fashion, especially in Asia. You know, if you can combine yo-yo and fashion, it's just another way to really grab that market. In fact, last year, 2 years ago, I think it was, there was a yo-yoer who teamed up with Louis Vuitton, which is a luxury bag brand, and they made 100 yo-yos. And does anyone want to guess what they cost? Just feel free to throw a number out there. Yeah. It cost $6,500. So $6,500. You're probably wondering, like, is it made out of gold? Exactly. That's exactly what it is. So, and they put the Louis Vuitton brand on there. Another thing that they did is they started doing yo-yo collaborations with TV shows and video game companies. In fact, one of the most iconic yo-yo freestyles of all time, in my opinion, is where a Japanese guy dressed up as Mario and he did the whole entire walk for the game to Super Mario music, doing yo-yos. He sent that to Nintendo, and literally a year later, he was doing commercials in Asia for them to do outreach for the yo-yo community. So it's this really interesting way to give an idea that even though it's just a toy, it's also something that, you know, can really relate to anything. And now on this last thing, essentially what we went from is taking something from as simple as it's just a toy, one piece of plastic, to it's a very in-depth design, trying to create a really, really simple idea. This is a design for one of the most iconic yo-yos today. It's called Yo-Yo Factory Shutter, which is kind of cool. So what did we learn today? We learned about dunking yo-yos, the history of yo-yoing. Also, afterwards, if you want to stick around, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do yo-yoing and why it's simple to use, starting with the fixed axis yo-yo and the spin star from Yo-Yo Factory. And then lastly, I'm going to do a yo-yo freestyle for you guys so you can watch me sweat. I don't know if you want to do that. You guys cool with that? Yeah. All right, yeah.
난 깨어나가만 밤과 함께 다 들어왔다면
Okay. What do you guys think? Okay, let me catch my breath. This is like the workout for today. So, okay. Before I do the teaching part here, where we hang out, I'm selling some yo-yos on the side. They're $5 and $10, and I'm giving 25% of all the proceeds to Cat's Cradle, the animal shelter, which is it's the charity, the beneficiary of today of this year's CoreCon. Wow, I should work out more. This is hard. I did this yo-yo show recently at an elementary school, and one of the kids is like, "Why is he so out of breath?" And then like the teacher's like, "It's because he's so focused." And what she really meant to say is like, he doesn't go to gym class like you do. So it's very true. I do not do that. Okay, before we do the teaching part here, say also just if you guys have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand. Love to do maybe some Q&A before we get started. Yeah. Yeah, see, that's a good point. So this is off-string yo-yoing. A lot of people get this confused with the Diablo, which I said was not a yo-yo, because they're both technically on a certain sense of string. The difference between a Diablo and a yo-yo is, with the yo-yo, I'm still having it come back to my hand. Yo-yo is it's a different word. It's actually trademarked differently in other countries. In other countries, it's known as a return top, which is really that return part is the aspect that differentiates the Diablo from the yo-yo. The difference with this here is I just took the string off the yo-yo and, different possibilities. So, yeah. Michelle. What's my favorite trick? It's the one I didn't get to do at the end. It's, let me see if I can do it for you guys right now. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Is there anything such as a yo-yo that's not allowed? That's actually a really great question. So in yo-yo competitions, there's 5 main styles of yo-yoing, and that's the divisions that the competition are built up on. It's 1A through 5A, so 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A. 1A is the style we all start with. It's the most competitive. The only thing that we start to run into where it won't be allowed is let's say I'm doing a division where I have the yo-yo off the string, which is 4A, off-string division. If I'm doing a yo-yo that starts on the string, but then goes off the string, I'll be disqualified because I didn't embody the whole entire style to its true core from the beginning of my routine. So it's a way, that's one of the things that is differentiating it. Another thing is, a couple years ago, there's a guy who came up with the idea of tying 2 full-length strings together and doing on-string yo-yoing, but the fact that he had 2 operating mechanisms or strings at the same time, even though he was just doing 1 yo-yo, complicated the system, so that actually eventually got him disqualified at the world level even on stage, which is unfortunate because he was on track to be the 2nd best yo-yoer in the world with that routine. So, yep. How many tricks have I created? I would say over the last 21 years, I've easily created above 200 different tricks and elements. The thing is, like, when you start out doing yo-yoing, you learn tricks, but later on, to a certain degree, you learn more style. So you're taking these basic elements, you're twisting your arm differently, you're rolling out of something differently, then you start to create your own tricks or your own style. Most yo-yo players actually don't even really name their tricks unless it's so iconic that most people are like, that's your trick, you should name that. So it's kind of like a claim to fame almost. Have I created any iconic ones? I have actually. So the one that I really like here, it's an off-string yo-yo trick. So a lot of people, when they were doing off-string in the And it was, a lot of people are doing that nowadays, but it was interesting because when I created that trick, it was almost like it was a little too far ahead of the time, because the main style at the time was a lot of just launching in the air and catching it back on the string was the main style. Any other questions? I'll take a couple more. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. This is cool. If you want to hang out for the next, looks like 20 minutes, learn maybe just a couple simple yo-yo tricks by Yo-Yo. I have free stickers too, so if you don't leave empty-handed. That's the only thing I ask. Feel free to come up and we'll hang out. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.